All right, hello everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today for our third town hall. My name is Michael Carter. I'm a farm to school coordinator with the Florida Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services. I'm joined by my friend and colleague Jason Dial, who is also a fellow farm to school coordinator, and our director of outreach, Bella Delgado. As I said, we're farm to school coordinators with the Florida Department of Agriculture. I see a few familiar faces in there, so you're probably kind of familiar with some of what we do. Hey, Cindy. But we mainly work in the three pillars of school gardens, agriculture education, and procurement. So we're super excited about our town hall today because we're going to be talking all about school gardens and a district-wide approach to supporting them. And I guess without further ado, we can go get started. Just a few notes on the housekeeping. So we will have some time at the end for a Q&A. So feel free to type them your questions in the chat, or you can just ask them at the end. And then we will be sending out a survey at the end of this webinar to get y'all's feedback. So that's it. Without further ado, Jeannine, please take it away.
All right,
Actually, I want to pause for one quick second. Can I just get some reactions from the group, just to make sure everybody's able to listen? Maybe some thumbs up or something, so we know everybody is receiving us properly. Awesome. Thank you very much.
Okay,
I can't
awesome.
see those things, so just so that you guys know. So if you need something, shout, or somebody look at the chat. If there's a question, please let me know, because having some technical difficulties on my end today. And I apologize that I won't be able to look directly at you. I was trying to move this over and it's just not working. So thank you for being here. Really excited to share with you some information about food for thought and a strategic approach to school gardens. So if you are somebody that's looking to start a school garden or work with a school district that has a school garden initiative, I want to give you some information that will be valuable to you as you move through and navigate whatever project you're working on with whomever you're working on with it. So my name is Jeannine Rizzo. I am with the School District of Palm Beach County. I work for the School Food Services Department. I have been here for 10 years. And prior to joining the district, my background is in training. I used to work for an organization called Dale Carnegie. So all of my background is executive coaching, talent development, strategic planning, performance management, and understanding like the strategic direction of an organization and then working with talent to align all of that. And that's exactly what I do in my role here, even though training isn't my primary role. I still take that strategic approach and I look at it to build all the programs that relate to school gardens. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. If anybody has a question, please feel free to just jump in and ask. Have no problem with that at all. So we're going to get forward. Oh, I just want to say also, please, we're going to be doing some polling. So if you see on the headers line, it says joinmenti.com. Please do that now. I will be activating some slides. You will need to put in that code number, and then you'll be able to participate in the polling, which will give me some idea of what you're thinking about, who's in the audience, and what we can do together so that I can tailor this presentation to who's sitting here.
Well, it sounds like Venice High School is going to.
Kristen, are you asking? Okay, there we go. All right. So we're going to move forward. All right. So fun facts about the School District of Palm Beach County. We are the 10th largest school district in the state of Florida, which is exciting and scary at the same time. We have a budget of $5.3 million. We have 23,000 employees, 183 schools, and 102 schools reporting a school garden this year on their campus. So one of the things that's really important to understand when you're dealing with a large organization, it's important to understand which direction we're moving, and that's what we're going to focus on today. So before we get started, let's do an activity. I love this activity. It helps to get your creative juices flowing. So this is going to require some interaction. So I'd like for you to let me know where you see that apple in the box. Okay, be specific to give me direction and I'll try to highlight. Can you guys all see my arrow? Okay. I'll try to highlight where you say you see that apple, but you're gonna have to be specific. So if you let me know, where do you see the apple in the box? I can't see the chat, so somebody's gonna have to read that. Okay.
So we have a back right corner as one answer.
Okay, so right here
See,
we've got this back right here, this back corner at
all right.
in the
Someone
lower.
says see-through box, that it's that the apple is behind the box and the box is see-through.
Okay, so the box is way in the back. Oh, I mean the apple's
Mm.
way in the back of the box. Okay, what else?
We got two more for the lower back right corner.
Okay, lower back right.
Another for behind the box.
Another behind the box. How about in the center of this box, forward facing? Center? You see that?
No, no one yet.
No one sees that. How about this one also back here? Oops. This one also. Oh, oh, but why is it not working?
I think there's like the arrow maybe in the bottom left corner,
I did that.
or just the arrow keys maybe.
I tried the arrow keys. What's going on?
Right click back, maybe?
Yeah, ask it nicely.
It's like, I don't know what this is. Why is this not working? Oh, there we go. Okay, so we've got the center. How about the center of the front box here? And there's also the center of the back box. So if you look at this box and it looks like it's on top, it would be the center of the front box. But if you're looking through the box, that would actually be the center of the back box. Do you guys see that?
Mhm.
This apple also appears in if this is the top box here, this also appears in the lower right of the top box.
Yeah, that's how it appears to me currently.
Yeah, so the point is there's a lot of different places to see this apple, right? So my point is if you are a stakeholder or you're somebody that's involved in a school garden program, you're going to look at this program very, very differently than other people are going to be looking at it. Okay, so you have to almost jump into a lot of different perspectives to make sure that you are factoring in a lot of different perspectives when you are creating a program if you want to set it up for success. If you're only looking at it through one perspective, then you're going to find yourself having to restart from time to time, or you're going to get well into a program and realize that you're going to have to back up because you forgot some things. So it's really important to understand that we all, based on who we are, what our backgrounds are, what our frame of reference is, what our experiences with gardens, what our goals are going to look at our perspective is influenced by how we've been brought up and what we see. And we're going to gravitate to one. So as you notice, there were some people that saw something right away. And if that's what you locked onto right away and you only considered that that was the only perspective to look at, you're going to find yourself on some rocky roads as you move forward because there are going to be some things that you've forgotten. So just let this activity remind you that just remember that the perspective that you see initially is not the only one. There are many perspectives happening at the same time. And to have a really good, successful program, you need to factor in as many of those perspectives as you possibly can. Okay? Any questions about that? Moving on. So today, this is what we're focusing on. Planting strategic roots. We're going to make sure that we're setting ourselves up for success. We're going to branch out strategically. We're going to look for those stakeholders. Who are those people that we need help with or from? We're going to get people excited about being part of our project. We're going to tackle the tough stuff. This is all about what types of challenges that we are likely to face as we're moving forward and what we need to do to empower people to work on this initiative and have a lot of success doing so. So before we get started, we're going to do our first Menti poll, and this is about you. So if you haven't, go to menti.com, and I need you to put in that code so that this way you can get to Menti, and I'm going to escape out of this right now and go to Menti, and I'm going to ask you, can you all see that? You should be getting a cue now to tell me who you are. What role best describes you?
I will say, make sure you go to minty.com and not Mentimeter.
So far, we have one person that I see. Oh, three school
I'm
nutrition
getting in there.
professionals. Okay. So does that mean you work for food service? When you say nutrition professional?
We got a farmer in the chat as well.
Can't pick more than one, can we?
No, you can't. There's a code on the slide. So if you guys can't find the code is on the slide right up here. So menti.com and use this code. Okay, so we've got nutrition, we've got school administration, we've got a farmer, and we've got other. Who's the other? What's the other role? Just so that when I'm talking.
Me. The other role is me, farm to school coordinator.
Okay, farm school coordinator. Okay, awesome. Okay, we're going to move on. So we're going to try, as I move forward, I'll try to incorporate some of these different perspectives so that we're working together. So here we go. So very, very most important part is that strategic roots part. This is where I draw on my background for strategy, right? So every organization, every school district, well, hopefully, every school district, every organization has an organizational plan. Every company has a plan that says, this is why we're in business. This is what we're doing. This is what our vision is. This is what our goals are. And they have these broad, overreaching goals. Okay, that's called an org plan. And that's supposed to identify for all the people working there what the direction and trajectory is for the organization as a whole. So this is who we are, this is what we do, and this is why we're doing it. Okay, that's what a strategic plan is all about. So when you have a strategic plan, that's like your beacon of light, that's your compass, that's your North Star. Everybody in that organization should be able to look at that and see how what they do every day contributes to the success of that organization. Now, sometimes they will delineate goals, or they'll have key focus areas, and then goals will be delineated through that. So again, it's just a map. Think of it as in terms of a map of how to move forward. In the school district of Palm Beach County, and probably in other districts as well, we are an educational organization. So a lot of the focus is usually on academics. A good, really effective strategic plan should incorporate all of the organization in there. Remember, I said earlier that we had 23,000 employees. 13,000 of those employees are teachers. The remaining 10,000 people that work for the school district of Palm Beach County have nothing to do with academics exactly. What we have to do is we're operational or non-instructional. So we are the support team for the academic people. And sometimes our very first strategic plan, when I first started 10 years ago, really was written, if you would have looked at it and you had any familiarity with a strategic plan, you would have thought it was for the academic department only. It read very much, it had very specific goals on how it was going to meet the academic goals. But the problem is, if you're an operational person, you'd have a hard time understanding how you contribute to some of those goals because you don't do that work. Our strategic plan now is a little bit different and encompasses more of the organization. So we have themes. We have 4 different themes. And as you can see, one is academic excellence and growth. Another is the student-focused culture, mental health and wellness, and committed and impactful employees. And what's really cool about this is that they are broad themes. So all of us can find our way in the strategic plan to know how we contribute to the movement forward of the school district of Palm Beach County. So that's the strategic plan. So then what happens with a strategic plan, it cascades down to a department plan. So we have lots of departments. This is kind of, I guess, a blessing and a curse all wrapped into one. When you work for a large organization, you're big, right? 23,000 employees. There's a lot of people and a lot of layers. So different departments have different goals too, right? So I work for food service, but there's risk management, there's building code services, there's teaching and learning, there's grants. There's a whole bunch of different departments also that will have a plan that will point to the organizational plan. And then from there, depending on the department that you work for, you'll have very specific goals of what you're doing. So what's important about this is if you are setting your goals to line up with your department, then you will be forward facing. You will at least be pointing in the direction of the organization. Sometimes if your goals have nothing to do with the direction of the organization, you don't really know what your purpose is or what your why is. And if you're in the throes of having to make decisions on the spot, you don't always make the right decisions because you don't know what the bigger goals are. So in some organizations, they share the strategic plan, it's cascaded down, department plans are cascaded down, and individual goals are set. Not in all organizations. My recommendation to you is that you need to know if you want a successful garden program or work with somebody to create one at a school district, you need to know your organizational plan, and the person you're working with needs to know the organizational plan there and their department plan, so that you're setting yourself up for success in the very beginning. Because otherwise you're going to have a lot of false starts. You'll get into it, you'll be working on things for 6 months, and the next thing you know, you forgot to get approvals, you forgot to involve different people, you're not factoring in all of the stakeholders, it becomes a problem, and then you never really get off the ground. And that's why this is important. So does anybody have any questions before we move on? Okay. So we're going to talk about branching out. We talked about stakeholders. This is like who's seated at your table. So this is important. Okay. When I first started 10 years ago, we were in the process of creating a garden guide, and I was brand new. I don't have, I'm not a horticulturist or a botanist and have plant experience. And in my role, I don't go out and plant with the kids. I'm the strategic person who lines everything up. So when I started 10 years ago, I didn't really know, I didn't know the stakeholders. I didn't know who the people were. I was just kind of thrown into it. So I'm trying to learn these things. And we've got a group of people that are working on it on a school garden guide, which I'll share with you later. And one of the things we needed to know were who are all the people involved. Like we didn't have any kind of sense or sensibility of how or what our garden program was. There was like anybody could call like a risk department, or they could call the environmental department, or they can call food service, or they could call maintenance, and they'd say, I want to have a garden. And whoever answered the phone gave them information. None of the information was coordinated. So when we started working on this guide way back when, was when we started to realize that we needed to have a group of people, stakeholders, representing different departments so that we could understand what the needs were for all the different departments. So that this way we could agree on what would be permissible, and we could put out resources that would reflect a cohesive lens for everybody, not just one department. We didn't want to say, okay, this was okay for building code services, but you'd be flying in the face of risk. You know what I mean? We didn't want any of that. So understanding who is seated at your table is really important. So here's our next Menti poll. I want you to tell me, who are your stakeholders? When you're working on a project, who are you working with to ensure that you've got everybody at the table? And then we're going to give you some ideas, because we're going to go back to that. We're going to go back to that apple in the box and say, hey, how many different perspectives should we be considering? Can everybody do that poll? Does everybody see that option on their screen? Okay.
I can see it.
Okay, because I don't see. Okay, here we go. Farmers, schools, NGOs, government, student, staff, administration, maintenance department, executive leadership, VPs, cross-functional leads, teams that have to input on our work. Okay. Okay, good. Okay. NGOs are like community partners, yes? Is that what you mean when you're saying NGOs? I know that's more at the federal level.
Yeah, I just meant that as a broad stroke for all of our stakeholders that are in different nonprofits and
Yeah.
even some for-profit organizations.
Yeah, so that's definitely a term that I hear more at the state level or the federal level, NGOs. But if we're dealing with like local, like you'd be having your community partners, and that's what that would mean locally, like the people that are some of your funders, some of your volunteers are coming from that, some people who want to be involved in starting a program or helping you to maintain that. We also have, and I don't see on here, well, and they could fall under NGOs or government community partners would be like IFAS, the extension offices. Those are really good stakeholders to involve in your program too. But the point is you want a variety of people and you want people at different levels inside of the organization and the one that you're working in and the one that you are working with so that you've got a lot of people that understand the big broad picture and the minutia, right? Like the tactical piece. So you've got your strategical piece, which is going to be your big picture follow, or big picture idea. And then you're going to have your tactical piece, which is going to be your implementation piece. And you need people to understand what needs to happen on the boots with the boots on the ground, because sometimes what looks great at a big picture, high level view does not work well in practice. It just does not work. And your boots on the ground people will tell you that. So position is important, but really you want the people that know the work. So it's not so much I've got the chief or I've got the superintendent or I've got the executive director. You want the people that are actually doing the work so that you know that you're getting the perspective from all different levels, because communication has a tendency to change as it drops down levels, and it doesn't always make its way down and it doesn't always make its way up. So it's important that you know that. Okay, so for us, we have internal stakeholders and external stakeholders. So when we were working on this garden guide is when this all came to be. Like we had to decide who was going to be this group of people that we needed to consult with to say, hey, like this is what schools want to do. And schools were doing it, whether we were giving direction or not. Our goal from a district level was to make sure that they were doing it safely and that they were following the protocols that had been put in place that are or requirements from all of the different departments. And that was definitely not happening because depending on who you called, you got one perspective, right? You got the perspective from the maintenance department, who was probably not just factoring in anything other than what the maintenance department needed to do. So again, everybody's looking through a different lens, and we have to do the best we can to find a happy medium to incorporate all of those lenses so that we have a program that will satisfy the concerns for all of the departments and allow for kids to have an experience where they're learning with project-based ideas and they are growing food and they're working through their program. So it's really important. So we call this the garden collaboration team in our school district, and we've got a lot of different departments that are part of that. We've got academics, and these aren't what our departments are called necessarily, but for purposes of this presentation, I want it to be more general so that you could involve the people that you're working with. So we've got the academic department, the building code services department, the chief operating office, right? Because they're looking at all of the different departments on the operational side. Career and choice was important to have at the table because they're helping to contribute to postgraduate success, and they're helping students and parents to make decisions as to which schools to go to. So if we were going to have a garden program, we wanted to make sure we knew where the culinary programs were, where the ag programs were, and this department is really important to help us understand that. The construction department in Palm Beach County, we're now building schools. We've built one before I started, but one since I've started, which is a school that was built with garden beds and hydroponics outdoors. So we are consulting now, being involved with the construction department. So we're at the table in the beginning. Our environmental department, right? Because now we're doing things indoors and we want to make sure that we're not compromising indoor air quality. We're making sure that we're following what's native in our growing area so that maintenance is low. We've got our grant department, right? We've got farm to school grants that are available. We can't do those on our own. We need to go through our grant department because of the size of those grants. And though we want schools that are going after those smaller grants to at least keep the grant department informed so that they know what kinds of grants are out there. They don't necessarily, our grant department doesn't necessarily provide support for little grants like whole kids grants and teacher grants and some of those smaller grants. The schools are doing that on their own. We just want them to keep the grant department informed so the grant department is aware of what's going on. We have our legal department. Sometimes we're working with district properties that are not necessarily at the school, but owned by the school district of Palm Beach County. And we have a community partner that wants to come in and work on those spaces and create either a food forest or some type of native garden. And so we need MOUs or we need legal documentation in place for that. So the legal department is involved and helps us to dot our I's and cross our T's. We've got our maintenance department. You know, they have their say in what things go on in the garden, because who gets the call when the garden gets abandoned? Well, that's the maintenance department. And their job is not to maintain the garden. Their job is just to make sure that when we're getting started, that they can give us in the location, like let us know where there's working irrigation. They help us with that. So we have set up some parameters and protocols in place in Palm Beach County so that anybody that's interested in having a garden has some protocols that they have to go through. And maintenance is the first one. They have to contact their maintenance area manager, let them know what locations. We then have to make sure, or they have to make sure that there's working irrigation. That is a requirement. We will not allow a school to put a garden in a space that does not have working irrigation. They will involve our building code services department. That department looks at everything that's happening underground. Where are the pipes? Where are the grates? Where are the things that could get broken if somebody digs? And so those two departments work hand in hand. And so does our risk department, because they want to make sure that where that garden is going to go, it's safe. So those three, and that it's not close to a playground. So they're not putting a garden bed or hydroponics near a playground. Those are concerns of the risk department. They want to make sure that, you know, it's fenced in, people from the public can't get in there. There's so many different things that have to be factored in. And if you've worked with anybody from the risk department, you'll know that they look at the worst case scenarios of everything. And that is because they see all of the accident reports, right? So they know what's going on, and we try to get ahead of those things as best we can. And what I love about our risk department is that they are risk management. They are not risk elimination, okay? There is a factor of risk in everything. What we're trying to do is mitigate it as best we can. We want our kids to learn. We want to provide this opportunity to them. And we want to make sure that we're doing our part as well. We've got the purchasing department. In many cases in a school district, especially one as large as ours, purchasing, there are vendors that you have to use for purchasing certain things. Fortunately for gardens is small. It's a small program in our department, in our district. So we don't have a lot of bid awarded vendors. We do have like a small business department. So we've got smaller vendors that we can work with. Schools are allowed to go to the box stores to get what they need relating to soil, because we're not buying it in bulk. None of the school garden programs in Palm Beach County are done by the district. They're done by the school. So it's usually they need certain number of bags of soil or mulch or whatever that might be. So they're not buying it in large quantities, and that's why they're allowed to go to the smaller stores. It's not on bid. We don't have enough to do that for our buying power. Risk, we talked about the risk department already. And school food service, of course, our interest is healthy eating, food, making sure that kids have access to food. In Palm Beach County, we're very big. We've got the richest communities and the poorest communities all in our area, and nobody should starve in Palm Beach County. Nobody should starve in the state of Florida, because we're an ag state. So if we teach kids how to grow things, they would have access to do so, and I think that would be a really great way to bring back agriculture. And it's also great to provide lessons for kids. So if we go back to our strategic plan, It's student focused, right? So this is all about education. We talked about committed and impactful employees. That was our fourth theme. We're working with our teachers to make sure that there are lessons. 2 years ago, actually this June will be 2 years, I hired somebody to work with me, specifically who was a teacher. I needed to hire somebody who knew things that I didn't know, and I don't speak the same language as the academic department does. I was not a teacher in a school. I don't know what their concerns are. So I hired somebody who was a teacher of 18 years at a high school. She was a science teacher. And so she now works with me and she works with teachers to write lessons. So she writes lessons K through 12 to align with very specific Palm Beach County standards so that our kids or our teachers can take the kids out to the garden for a science lesson or a math lesson or a technology lesson, right? So we're doing what we can to integrate the two sides, right? So that gardens isn't just an ancillary after school program, it is now more academically driven. And that's what we're looking to do, to marry those two. And we're only 2 years in. Denise Conway is my colleague. She does an amazing job with working with the teachers. She knows what their concerns are. She knows what resources they have. She knows what time is available to them. She does everything she possibly can to make it easier for teachers to go out to the garden and work with the kids and help with those lessons. So we're only 2 years in. Our next step, and we're working on it now, is getting that data, right? So to get the buy-in, the strong buy-in for the academic or the administrators or the senior level people in the school district of Palm Beach County, we have to show them that kids or schools that are bringing kids out to gardens to learn their academics are performing higher. We've got to be able to demonstrate that when kids have a garden day, nobody's absent, there's higher engagement, and we just have to figure out what those metrics are so that we have that battery of data to share with academics. Because again, remember, their apple is different. They're looking at school performance, they're looking at school scores, and if we can't show a direct connection with gardens to that, they don't look at gardens as a serious player in the game of academics. And that's what we're trying to change. So operationally, we're set up. We're still working on the academic part of that. And so at the school level, we have to work with the administration. We have to work with the faculty, the teachers, and the students. So that's what Denise does. She is working with them to make it simpler and better so that they have the time to go out there. The proximity of the garden is close to where they are. We are getting more involved in indoor hydroponics for ease of use, really for science, so that you can have it in a classroom and it's easier to bring kids to a corner of a classroom than it is to get them together, walk them through a hall, walk them through a campus to where the garden is. By the time they get there, they don't have much time. So that's what we're looking, some of those logistics, that's what we're looking to do to work better at the school level, but we've got a really great start and I'm really proud of the work that we're doing. So those are our stakeholders internally. And we call them the garden collaboration team. And we do draw on teachers. We want their expertise. We have a couple of horticulturists. We have some ag programs, and we're working with them now to increase plant varieties and things while keeping things safe at school levels, because they're the ones that are doing the work in the classroom. We want their input. So bringing them to the table as well is important. We can't just work with the principals. We have to work with the teachers too, because they're letting us know what they need. So does anybody have any questions? That was a lot of stuff, a lot of important stuff as it relates to branching out. This is just to get started. Okay. So I will, if nobody has any questions, then I will move on. Okay, go ahead, Cindy.
I have a question on your teacher on special assignment, your science teacher. Did that come out of the food service budget or did you have a grant for that?
No, so it's not a teacher on special assignment. She was a regular teacher. We opened up a position in food service to work with me. And so now she doesn't work for the academic department. She works for food service.
And that came out of your federal funds?
That came out of the school food service department budget.
And is that federal?
I'm going to go with yes. I think it is.
Okay.
Michael, food service federal. I guess so. Under the Florida, it's the National School Lunch Program. So we
okay.
through the Florida Department of Agriculture, the National School Lunch Program. That's how we're funded. in
Mm-hmm.
service. It's not a district level funding. It comes from the school food service budget. We have a separate budget, and
Mm-hmm.
we are food service is an enterprise. Are you food service, Cindy?
Yes, I'm the coordinator of food service for the district.
Yeah, so that's where we're getting our
Mhm.
dollars from. So that's she's with us,
Okay.
and we
So
did it.
my other question is, your program is academically driven versus farm to table or in the cafeteria menu. Is
Well,
that
no,
correct?
well, no, not exactly. We
Okay.
have a bit of everything, and we're not our program. Our program is not our program. The garden program is the school program.
Oh,
Our
right. Okay.
working cross-functionally to make sure that we put out resources that
Mm,
are aligned with what the district allows to happen on a school campus.
okay.
Whatever a school wants to do, a school will do. So as an example, we have a
Mhm. Okay.
brand new school that was built with raised beds and hydroponics, and that teacher on that campus has hit it out of the ballpark. She has
Mm,
so many people on her campus, but they are doing like Fork Fridays. So they're sampling, like they're growing lettuce in their hydroponics,
mhm.
and then they're sampling that lettuce. They're working with their food service cafeteria manager, and
Mhm.
they're sampling that lettuce in the cafeteria. So on Fridays, it's Fork Fridays, and they're sampling something that they've grown, and there's like a contest. Which one did you like better? So it becomes a big deal. So the kids are involved, the kids and the teachers are assigned different beds in that school. They are going out to work in the garden and do lessons to help with those academics. So it's a little bit of everything. But
Mhm.
every school is different. So it's not the
Yeah.
food service program, it is the school program.
Okay. Is your food service in-house or contracted out?
So it's in-house.
In-house. Okay.
It's our department.
Okay. So do you have any schools that are allowed to put it in the cafeteria menu? Is there a partnership there to put it in the menus?
We do. Well, we farm to school. The farm to school program is different because we have farmers on bid, and the local farmers are part of that, and the
Mhm.
vegetables that they grow are on the line. That's different than the garden.
Right.
The garden program, they're whatever they grow, they're allowed to sample. And again, they work with their food service manager to bring it in through the cafeteria to get it cleaned so that they can sample
Sampling.
it and
Okay.
people sample it. So if there's like, I've only had one
Yeah.
school that grew. I don't know if everybody's familiar with Bonnie plants, but they give out cabbage
Yes.
plants to the third grade. And we had one elementary school that had so much cabbage that they brought the whole thing, like so much, they were able to feed the cafeteria. Like the whole
Mhm.
through the cafeteria, they made coleslaw, and they were able to use that cabbage that was grown on that campus and feed everyone. But we
Yeah.
don't really have a program yet that yields enough food to be able to go on the food service line. We'd love to have that contract to be
Hmm.
able to do that. Their yield is not high enough yet. I think that once we get more indoor things happening, the yield will be higher and quicker. In Palm Beach County, we have a very big iguana issue.
Yep.
Some of those gardens do get affected by iguanas, so there's that too. So we are working with food service. We do have
Yeah.
protocols in place with they're allowed to sample and taste, but who's sampling and tasting is really up to the school and the
Yeah. Okay.
children.
Yeah. Our issues are deer and wild hogs.
Yeah. So
Thank you.
right, they're taking all their stuff, right? So it's a problem. But we're trying to mitigate some of those things. We'll talk about that when we talk about tackling the tough stuff. So, all right. So there's a question here in the chat. How are you folks dealing with the cuts in education and funding? Is school food service impacted? And if so, how are you being creative with this funding cuts to ensure these programs move forward? Okay, we, school food service, do not fund gardens. We do not use school food service money ever to fund gardens. We just don't do that. Schools are responsible. These are individual school programs. So what we do is I make sure that we've got our garden collaboration team all in alignment with what is permissible. We put out resources. We've got a garden classroom, and I'll talk about the resources at the end. We'll put the resources out, and the teachers and the principals, they have the autonomy to do or not do anything that they want to do. So gardens are not required. We have some schools that have never had a garden and probably never will. We have other schools that have gardens with strong administration in place that believe in agriculture. We've got ag schools. So they're different in what they're doing. We don't have a blueprint for what should be done on a campus. We just tell them we give them a buffet of what they're allowed to do, and then they decide based on their resources what they can do. And they do get grants. So you have some teachers that are rock star teachers that'll apply for every grant that's available, and then they fund their own gardens. And we've got some schools that are taking the things that they're growing and they're selling it to the parent line, and the proceeds that they're receiving go back into the garden. So they're very creative as to how they're funding those things, but they are looking for grants, and grants seem to be prevalent. They're not being funded by food service, though. Okay. All right, I'm going to move on now to branching out to external stakeholders, community partners, farmers, funders, parents. Parents are great. We've got some schools that have strong PTAs. This would be more at the elementary school level. They're volunteering, they're helping, they're doing planting days, they're doing cleanup days. It's fantastic. We see less of that at the middle and high school level. We've got, though, what we're trying to leverage at the middle and high school level are volunteer hours. So some of those kids at ag schools come over and help the middle schools and sometimes the elementary schools so that they can get those volunteer hours under their belt. So we're trying to do that, but we do have to get creative with some of those things because we want to make sure that the gardens are sustainable. It is a problem. We'll talk about that when we talk about tackling the tough stuff. Gardens come and go. They're not there to stay, and part of that's a systemic issue too. So, but we're looking we've got IFAS, we've got all kinds of farm community. We're right by Bell Glade, right? We're right by the Glade, so we've got this big ag community right at our fingertips. We've got farmers out here who want to help. We've got parents that want to be involved. It's just a matter of strategically placing them where we can place them. And some schools are just better at that than others because of the communities that they live in. But we do what we can. Again, we need the school support. If we don't have school support, it's hard to get to keep something sustainable, because if the school is not engaged at the school level, a community partner coming in once a week or once every other week or once a month is not going to be enough to keep that functioning for a school. Okay. Let's talk about how do we get harvest excitement. So let's talk about what the benefits of gardens are. I'm going to put this onto a Menti poll, and we're going to move this one forward to the next slide, and you guys should see. So tell me what the benefits are of gardens from your perspective. And then we can talk about some things we can work in for other stakeholders, because you got to change your messaging. Increased exposure to fresh fruits and vegetables. Kids learn where their food comes from. That is definitely the food service focus. That's what we care about, right? Mental health is also involved with that, right? Engagement, because you've got kids. Gardens, putting your hands in the soil and being outside with the wildlife is really, really soothing. So kids that are under pressure or feel nervous or have the opportunity to be outside, that's just a great thing for their souls, right? So I think it's amazing. Gardens bring so much of that to the table. I mentioned earlier that just knowing where food comes from and being able to grow it should help with our food security problem, right? We want to make sure, well, insecurity problem. We want to make sure that we are all food secure. We take kids to local farms so that they can actually see where we have a farm to school program, so they can see where the farms where their green beans are coming from, their corn cobettes are coming from, and they see that in the cafeteria, so they get to see that from the dirt to the processing to the table, which is really cool. Hands-on learning, physical well-being, parent involvement, gets kids outside, education. It will be, I know that it's going to boost scores. Kids will learn better because more of their senses are engaged when they are outside learning. And it's an experiential learning, right? Because they're being tricked into learning, right? They're learning about different things and they're learning about bugs. They may not be learning about it in a specific order at a specific time, but they're learning a cohesive learning, a holistic approach to learning, because they're outside doing it, and the benefits are so far reaching. And because it's not in front of a smart board and being forced in, it's an experience that learning will stay with them longer. So the next time that they're at a park or they see a bug, they're going to be able to recall it because they learned about it in the garden. And that to me is that to me is spectacular. Like, I just love that. Okay. Oops, that's not, don't go there yet. We're not supposed to be there yet. Okay, so let's go. So we talked about the benefits. And when you're selling, let me just go back one, if I can get this slide to go back. Okay, good. I don't know what happened to the, okay. The benefits, when you're selling benefits, depending on who you're working with, okay, there are a lot of people that want to just share. There's so many benefits to school gardens. And here's my advice to you. Know who you're talking to or with when you're having a conversation about gardens. If you want to get school food service involved, talk about incorporating fresh fruits and vegetables, talk about the benefits of them, talk about nutrition education. You're going to get your food service people perked up and listening. If you want to talk about getting a program involved in your campus, talk about engagement of kids, talk about the learning benefits. You have to tailor your conversation to the ears of the person that you're talking with. Otherwise, they're going to turn off and they're not going to see the benefit. So if you're talking to a principal, you want to talk about grades. Hey, I've got better engagement. My kids are in school, more kids are graduating, whatever it is that you want to do or you want to share, but you've got to share it in the context of the person who's listening to you. You can't just tell them everything because not everything matters to them. If you're talking to a funder, you need to know what their goals are. Know what their goals are and speak in terms of those goals when you're doing your program. You may have different goals, and that's okay. You've got to show how you're going to help them reach their goals. And that's what you want to sell. So your conversation about gardens and their benefits has to be modified depending on who you're talking to. Otherwise, people are going to get glazed over because there are so many benefits. You've just got to pick the ones that stand out to the person who's going to be providing the support. If you're talking to kids and you want them to do, and you need volunteers, you need to talk to them about community service hours. Then they'll be in. You know what I mean? You got to show them the benefit that they're getting, not just the benefit you're getting. Okay, and not just the benefit that the kids that you're serving are getting. You've got to talk about the benefit of the person providing the work. That is like a critical piece to this. Okay, now tackling the tough stuff. This is important stuff. Okay, let's go back. So we're going to talk about the challenges of gardens, and there are many, 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 many challenges. So let's go back to Menti, and we're going to go to the next slide, and we've got it already. Here we go. Challenges. We're working with a whole school garden curriculum K-5. The challenge we are facing is implementation at all grade levels and subject matters. Sustainability is an issue. Time constraints, too many tasks, not enough staff. Keeping tabs from semester to semester or school year to school year, which gardens are active at different school sites. Yes, all of these. You've got wildlife. I don't see wildlife up there. They're nice. You've got pollinators that are coming in, but you also have feasters. So they're coming in and they're taking the food that's being pollinated by the other wildlife, right? You've got logistics, right? Where are those gardens and how do I get the kids to them? You've got weather challenges, right? You've got safety challenges. You've got timing challenges. All of them are problems. And it's going to vary from school to school. You got to work with different people. You got to plug in the right things. So here's what I would say, what I found to be successful in Palm Beach County. Lots of times, if you have a full-time teacher in a classroom that doesn't have garden experience, it's going to be hard for them to do a garden program, because they're gonna have to do their academics first. If they have like a passion for gardens, that's gonna seep into everything that they do. So if you're working with somebody, find somebody who's passionate about gardens and kids and gardening and has that knowledge, because it'll be easier for them to get out there and work it in because they're feeding their own passion. Remember, as a stakeholder, you want to sell the benefits. So they're feeding that passion to go out there. They're still a teacher. They know what they have to accomplish, but they're feeding their passion, and it's going to be easier for them to align those two. Resource teachers or teachers on special assignment, those are really good people to be the point person on a garden program because they don't have a full-time class. So they have more time to do some of these ancillary things. The best solution is to involve parents and multiple faculty and multiple teachers so that you can divvy up the responsibilities. Instead of having one person responsible for a garden, you've got many people. And you can have a list. You can have some people, maybe you're calling in certain grade level parents at one day a week, and they're working on different things or different tasks. You've got some of your box stores have like Home Depot has projects in certain areas, and they'll bring a lot of Home Depot people to your campus to do some work. So they'll do that with you. And the thing about those, and you've got a sustainability issue, you've got to make sure that if you're working with a community partner, you got to make sure that you got some longevity there. Here is something that we're doing in Palm Beach County because we know that there's a lot of turnover. There's principal turnover, there's teacher turnover. And if you've got a garden and you've got administrative support and teacher support, and then the principal leaves and the teachers follow, guess what happens to the garden program? It's abandoned. So now you've got a bigger problem because maybe Home Depot came in and put all these resources on your campus, and now there's nobody there that's supporting the program. What you need to do to protect your community partner is have some kind of service level agreement in place so that it's signed by not just for us in food service. For me, our service level agreements have to be signed by the superintendent or a board member or the regional superintendent, people that have some serious clout, a chief. So that this way, if administration leaves, you've got the heavy hitters that said, hey, we're going to protect this community partner's investment for the next 5, 6, 7 years, or whatever that term is that you agree. Because if they put something in the ground and they spend $10,000 and 2 years later the principal leaves and it gets shut down, you're going to be hard pressed to find another community partner who's going to want to work with you. So be mindful. If you're not willing to put your money in, make sure that you're that you're safeguarding the investments of the people who are putting their money in. That's really important because it's going to get around if they come back a year later and their investment is gone. Okay, so be mindful of that.
And I just wanted to jump in real quick. We got 3 minutes left on the meeting time.
Okay, so well, that's good because we're at the end. So power action. So this is what we do as far as resources are concerned. We have a school garden development guide. Let's see if I can show this to you. We have a school garden development guide. This is going to be changing. This is going to be done for the next year. We're going to have a new one, but we've got everything that you're allowed to do on a school campus. We have a really cool clickable guide here that shows them what their approved plants are. So anything that they want to do is in this guide. If there's something that they want to do that's not in this guide, they have to email the garden collaboration team for permission, and we will have the right stakeholders chime in to let them know what they can do. So if they can't do what they're proposing, we'll tell them what they can do instead. So this is available on our district website. You can see that, which is pretty cool. We've got also a garden dashboard. There was somebody who asked about how to gauge this. From year to year. Every year at the beginning of the year in August, we put out a bulletin to all principals and all schools that they have to register their garden status. They have to tell us, do you have a garden? Yes, I've got a new garden. I have an existing garden. I have an existing garden, but we're not using it. And then, no, we don't have a garden. And then this way, we have a forward-facing dashboard. This is also available on our district website under the food service department, nutrition services. You can find this. It'll show you how many gardens we have, what level gardens they're at, what kind of garden they have. Do they have an edible garden? Do they have a native garden? This is helping us to kind of reel it in. These are the things that we ask them at the beginning of the year. I do have to chase some of them to update their stuff every year, but I can tell you that this is pretty accurate because I knew that we were going to have this dashboard and I wanted to make sure everything was forward facing. So we've got that. Let's see. We have a Google Classroom. Our Google Classroom is where we put information about grants, anything that we know, any contests, things that are happening. We drop them in the Google Classroom for gardens, and the teachers get that information and are able to chime in and do what they want to do. And we started a garden rescue. We did have a problem with administration change. It's not, when when administration changes, they're looking for another person to take over the administration. They're not necessarily looking at a garden program to say, hey, do we have somebody with agriculture experience coming in to run this school? So garden programs do fall because of changes of administration. So when that happens, and I get like I can see when principals are leaving, I look to see if there's a garden on that campus. I look to see if there's going to be support for the next one. And if there's not, I'm going to put in the garden classroom, hey, I've got hydroponics, I've got garden beds. Who wants them? This school program is going away, and there's no shortage of people who will take those resources. So I will repurpose them, and we call that the garden rescue program. And we've had to do that because people leave, and I at least try to safeguard the investment of a community partner who may have put it there. It may not be at the same school, but at least it's not going to waste. It's going to a new school. So these resources, I'll make sure that you guys get this presentation so that you have it. So who has questions? I'm right at 11.
Yeah,
Questions?
we're right at time.
Okay, so thank you guys for being here. Here's my contact information. The district website is here too. I will make sure that Michael has this presentation. Any questions that you have, feel free to come to me or ask me. I've been here 10 years, so I've probably experienced a lot of different things that I could share. This is broad strokes. Hopefully I'll see you at the conference in April, and I can talk more if you've got more questions there too. You're very welcome.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much, Jeannine. That was incredible. I hope everyone learned something new. Jeannine's amazing. She does amazing work. She put in a plug for our conference, so we appreciate that. We do a free Farm to School conference every year. So the next one's coming up in April. There's a free conference. So I hope you can join us for that. That's going to be in Tampa. Jeannine's contact is here. As she said, feel free to reach out with any questions. We'll be sending out a survey as well. And if you ever need to reach out to our Farm to School team, we're really easy to get in touch with as well. We have our website, Farm to School FL. There you can find all of our resources, future webinars, these town halls we do bi-monthly, as we mentioned. And there you can see our events. We also have virtual farm tours. There's all kind of stuff on there, as well as our contact information. And then on our YouTube, we'll be hosting this video along with previous and future webinars at FLFNW. So with that, I just want to thank you again, Jeannine, for presenting and for your time. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. We want to be respectful of your time. I'm sure we have more questions. But yeah, as you said, we'll be in touch. Feel free to reach out with anything we can help with, and we'll see you next time.
Awesome. Bye, everyone.